Loneliness is a growing problem in our society. This was a problem back in Genesis where God said it is not good for man to be alone. But it seems that things have escalated in our current culture even more than they were back then. Think about how connected you are to the world with your phone. I mean, it's at the end of your fingertips, you can get anything you want, and how quickly you connect with people that you haven't seen for years on social media, and it's so easy to get in touch with them. But we've lost that one-on-one, face-to-face thing because we're so connected, but yet it feels like we're so alone. See, very rarely do we have time to spend with people. Our schedules are so full of things. We have so much to do. We have to do so many things before the end of the day that we have to fit that in that schedule and then still make time for friends, for family, for time for just us. You see, very rarely we do that. Our schedules are so full. So looking at studies and seeing this, there's studies that suggest, there's many of them that I looked at, and they suggest that the one group that is the most loneliest are usually college students. And you think, wow, that's pretty crazy. And I think it's kind of normal because think about it. College students have been going to high school, they've been able to see their classmates face to face, and now with so much to do in your college thing when you go through, it's very hard to make time to spend time and to get your schoolwork done if you're actually focusing on school. After you go through college students, then it goes to divorced people. And we can see divorced people happen because when you separate from divorce, sometimes friends go with one side or they go with the other side, and one group gets left alone and the other group doesn't. So we can see divorced people's next. Then it goes welfare recipients, single mothers, rural students, housewives, and then finally the elderly. This was what I saw from most studies, and this is the list that goes in. So there's a pastor, his name is Charles Swindoll, and he was in one of his messages, he mentioned an ad in a Kansas newspaper, and it reads as, "I will listen to you talk for 30 minutes without comment for $5. Now, Swindoll went on to say, kind of sounds like a scam, doesn't it? But the person was really serious. They were actually opposite. And then the next question you have is, do people call? And you know what? The crazy thing is a lot of people called. But it wasn't long before the individual that put the ad in there was taking up to 20 calls a day. Now think about that. 30 minutes a call, 20 calls. A long time on the phone. But loneliness was so sharp that some were willing to try anything just to get that half hour of companionship. See, I remember reading an article a few years back, right before I started dating online, because I wanted to look at it because, I grew up in the time where online dating was kind of faux pas. You met your people that you met there. And I remember reading about arranged marriages because it was just on the internet. And I'm not talking about in like India, Egypt, foreign countries where like this thing is like a standard practice. No, this has actually happened in the United States. See, there's a company that specializes in finding mates for busy, isolated, and stressed people who claim they can't find time to start a relationship. See, according to the Bible, everyone needs a friend. That's why it tells us that two are better than one, Ecclesiastes 4:9. Everyone needs to be loved and to be loved, to love and to be loved. Everyone needs someone to watch over their soul. We all need someone who doubles our joy and divides our grief. We all need someone who understands our silence. We all need someone who comes in when the whole world has gone out. As the song by 10th Avenue North goes, no man is an island. See, we all need friends, but we also need the right kind of friends. Not just anyone will do. That's the point of our entire text. Bad company corrupts good character. 1 Corinthians 15:33. In other words, bad friends lead to bad character. But the opposite is also true. Good friends lead to good character. Proverbs 13:20 says, "He who walks with the wise grows wise, but the companion of fools suffers harm." If you have the right kind of friends, you'll become a better person, a person of wisdom. But if you have the wrong kind of friends, it will cause you ruin and destruction. Think for a moment what this means. This means the kind of friends you have can tell you something about your future. To foretell the future, people today use things like psychic hotlines, horoscopes, crystal balls, tea leaves, and even palm readings. I remember the cootie catchers back when I was in middle school, the things that open up and you would read them. I remember all those. Those are the big rage. But as Christians, we don't really believe in that stuff. But to a certain extent, you can tell your future just by taking a hard look at who your friends are. See, the words of our text form a proverb. Now, the definition of a proverb is a short, pithy saying in general use, stating a general truth or piece of advice. You need to know that proverbs are not always promises. They're not always true. God does not promise that every teenager with the right friends will turn out okay. Nor does God threaten that every young married couple with the wrong kind of friends will have their marriage end up in divorce. Proverbs are just general observations on life. A proverb says something that is generally true, but it may not be true for any and every situation. So with this in mind, let's take a closer look at what the Bible teaches us. The first thing that comes up is get other friends. That's my first main point. See, bad company corrupts good character. Take a hard look at your friends. If your friends are leading you to wreck your life, you need to get other friends. That's what the Bible is telling us. Let's say you have a problem with alcohol and drugs. That was me. You are not going to break free of this problem if you keep hanging around with others who drink too much or use drugs. So, get other friends. People who don't get drunk, don't use drugs. That's what I went through when I came back from college. I got in with my friends who were drinking, partying, doing all that stuff. And at first I wasn't doing any of that, but the more I hung out with them, the more I started to drink, the more I started getting into alcohol. And then when I was like, oh, I don't really want to do this anymore, and I was still hanging out with them, even though I didn't want to do it, I still did it. Kind of like what Paul says, like I do things that I don't want to do. Like that was me back then. And so what happened was when I started hanging out with my friends that went to church, because I ran into my friend who invited me back to church, suddenly I got out of that lifestyle. So that's the kind of thing they're talking about. Sometimes you have to break free of those kind of groups that you're in. Let's say you're head over heels in debt because you want to keep up with your friends. You know the saying, keeping up with the Joneses. When they get a new car, you get a new car. When they buy a computer, you buy a computer. When they redo their apartment, their house, they redo their living room, you redo your living room, your house, everything. When they purchase a boat, you got to get a boat so you can go out and hang out with them. When they take expensive trips, you take an expensive trip. When they get the newest phone, you got to get a new phone too, just so that way you guys have something to talk about. If you're caught in a trap like this, the only advice I can give to you is this: get other friends. Get other friends, friends who are not materialistic, friends who accept you for who you are rather than what you have. Let's say your faith life and prayer life and church attendance are not what they should be. If you hang around with people who do not pray and don't go to church, people who make fun of God or never think about Him, your faith life and your prayer life and church attendance, they cannot improve. They most likely won't improve. Most likely they'll get worse. To improve your level of spirituality, you need to get other friends, people who love the Lord Jesus and read the Bible and faithfully attend church services. Let's say you have a problem with bad language or pornography, or telling dirty jokes and stories. If you are friends with people who do the same sort of thing, you're only going to get dragged further and further down into the sewer, pit, the muck, all that garbage. In such situations, you need other friends, people who don't use that language, people who talk respectfully about the opposite sex, people who never use pornography. How easy is it to start swearing when you hang out with people that swear? How easy is it to get into watching certain things when you hang out with people who watch those things with you? See, that's what happens. That's what that bad company corrupts good character. So I want to ask you a question here. Let's take a close look at the kind of people you hang around with. I want you to take a close look at your friends. Tell me, are you a companion of fools whose company is leading you into harm and is corrupting your character? Or are you friends with the wise whose company is good for your soul and spirit? See, I've always loved the words of Psalms 1. And Psalms 1 and verses 1 and 2, just listen to these words. Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, or stand in the way of sinners, or sit in the seat of mockers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. See, according to the psalmist here, and the psalmist is David, that man is blessed who avoids bad companions and makes the law of the Lord his companion. So here's a question. What kind of people do you pick to be friends with? See, kids, are your friends kids who obey their parents and teachers? Or do you pick friends who talk bad about their parents, their teachers, and all their grown-ups? Teenagers and young adults, are your friends people who study hard and stay out of trouble? Or do you pick the friends that get drunk every weekend, go to parties? Do you pick your friends that go to youth group, or do you choose those who go to parties every weekend? Do your friends encourage you to do Bible reading and prayer, or do they introduce you to sex, drugs, and alcohol? And grown-ups, are your friends focused on God and His kingdom and His righteousness, or are they to emphasize big houses, lavish decorations, and expensive vacations? See, don't forget what our text says to us. Bad company corrupts good character. This means that if your friends are not the right kind of friends, you need to get other friends. You see, what is true of friendship in general is especially true of romantic friendship. If you date or marry a godly person, like I did, I got lucky, you will grow wise. If you date or marry a fool, you will suffer great harm. Words cannot describe the grief and misery that usually results when a Christian marries a non-Christian. I can talk about this because of my parents. My mother was a Christian and she married a non-Christian. And this is what's happened since they've now moved away and we have stopped going because they don't live here. See, while dating, the unbeliever is often willing to go to church, but things change right after the wedding. Then the unbeliever becomes angry if you ask them to go to church or accuse you of nagging. Then they become angry because you always seem to go to church. To keep them happy, you stop attending church, no longer give any money to the church. You started your marriage with prayer and Bible reading at the supper table. Pretty soon you find yourself praying and reading by yourself, and then you find you rarely or never do it anymore. See, your children go to church with you when they're small, but as they get older, they give you trouble and want to stay home with the other parent, and you have nothing to say. You see what happens? Bad company corrupts good character. Now, I was looking through the internet, studying for this message, and this is a prayer I found, and it was from another pastor, but he used this prayer, and it's very interesting, so I just want you to listen to this. And listen to the words carefully. This is what this pastor said. There was a bride on her wedding day, and this is the prayer she had for her wedding day. Dear God, I can hardly believe that this is my wedding day. I know I haven't been able to spend much time with you lately, with all the rush of getting ready for today, and I'm sorry. I guess, too, that I feel a little guilty when I try to pray about all this, since Larry still isn't a Christian. But, oh, Father, I love him so much. What else can I do? I just couldn't give up on him. Oh, you must save him, some way, somehow. You know how much I've prayed for him, and the way we've discussed the gospel together? I try not to appear too religious, I know, but that's because I didn't want to scare him off. Yet he isn't antagonistic, and I can't understand why he hasn't responded. Oh, if only he were a Christian. Dear Father, please bless our marriage. I don't want to disobey you, but I do love him, and I want to be his wife. So please be with us, and please don't spoil my wedding day. See, that sounds like a really sincere prayer, right? Doesn't it? But if you strip all the religious language, it actually comes out to saying something like this. And you just got to listen to it. If you're listening to the prayer, then listen to what it is when we boil it down, take all that religious, we would call it pious language out of it, and it actually goes like this. Dear Father, I don't want to disobey you, but I must have my own way at all costs. For I love what you do not love, and I want what you do not want. So please be a good God and deny yourself and move off your throne and let me take over. If you don't like this, then all I ask is that you bite your tongue, say or do nothing that will spoil my plans, but let me enjoy myself. See, how do you think God answers a prayer like this? Most people who choose an unbeliever to be their spouse know they cannot expect God to bless them or give them an enjoyable experience. In fact, it usually leads to their ruin because, as our text says, bad company corrupts good character. So after we've gone through that, the next step, my next point is, how do we choose our friends? See, to make a point, this is a really big exaggeration, and it's only going to be an A or B. You only have one choice. And to a certain extent, there's only two places in our society where we can look for friends. We can look for friends outside the church, or we can look for friends in the church. And the first place I'm going to talk about is outside the church. I think of places like the bar, social media, the internet. In the view of the world, these places are blessed places one can go to meet the desire for fellowship and companionship that God has given to us. They all are permissive, accepting, colorblind, inclusive when it comes to fellowship. They're unshockable because you can get in any groups, and anything you want to talk about can come up, and that's how it is on the internet. They flourish because people need other people, because people want friendship and companionship. Of course, what they offer is counterfeit. It isn't real friendship, it isn't real concern, it isn't real love, but it's close enough to the real thing that many people settle for. Now, if that's the first one, the second place is to look for friends that's in the church. So there's a story about a plastic surgeon, and I found this online, and it's a great story. And the plastic surgeon, she had just done surgery on a woman. And this woman was going to see a pastor, and she told this pastor what this doctor had given her, like a facelift, and was discharging her, and he gave her this advice. Now I'm paraphrasing here, and I don't have like the entire story because it's actually quotable, but this is what the doctor told the woman. He said, "I haven't done an extraordinary job on your face. As you can see in the mirror, I've charged you a great deal of money, and you were happy to pay it. But I want to give you some free advice. Find a group of people who love God and who will love you enough to help you deal with all the negative emotions inside of you. If you don't, you'll be back in my office in a very short time." See, this doctor knew something about the church. He knew the church is the best place to find friends who love you and care for you. You see, this woman cared so much about what the outside world said about her that she changed herself. Because most of us in the church, our job is not to change the outside person. We're just supposed to love the person as they are. That's what God calls us to do. See, when it comes to friendship, getting involved in the church isn't an option. It is a necessity. If you want to choose the right friends, then you need to choose among those who are friends of Jesus. See, Psalms 119:63 says, I am a friend to all who fear you, to all who follow your precepts. See, the psalmist made a point of looking for Christians, for believers, to be his friends. Now you may ask why. Why does the psalmist look for believing friends? I'm sure it's because he knew the truth of what our text is saying. Bad company corrupts good character. But he also knew the most important relationship in life is a relationship with God and with Christ. So let me ask you a question. Where are you most likely to meet God? Is it in the bar or in the church? In a beer tent or in a youth group meeting? On social media or at a Bible study? Big questions there. So, I want to end by asking, if Jesus is your friend, are you a friend of Jesus? Is Jesus your friend? See, Jesus shows us the true measure of friendship. He says in John 15:13, greater love has no one than this, that he laid down his life for his friends. If you believe in Jesus, he has laid down his life for you, and he is your friend. He has laid down his life for your sins and your guilt. He has taken your place on the cross. He has borne your inequities and your shame. Jesus is the most important friend anyone can have. Can any of us find a friend so faithful and true as the Lord? See, in conclusion, bad company corrupts good character. According to this proverb, your friends can either help you or hurt you. They can either help you and encourage you in your relationship with Jesus, or they can lead you away from Jesus. So I ask you again, what kind of people do you pick as your friends? But above all, are you friends with Jesus? Now I'm going to close in prayer. So dear Lord, just thank you for allowing us to come together. Pray that you give us a good rest of the week. And I pray that you remind us to pick friends carefully and insightfully, and to remember that you are a friend above all. And I just thank you for everything you do for us. In your name, amen.